what is a coating? So a coating is a material that covers a surface to perform one or more functions. Paint is a good example. Paint was originally developed to perform two completely separate functions: as a decorative coating, for example fine art, and as a protective coating. Over time, paint has developed to overlap and provide both protection and decoration to a surface, for example car paints. By the addition of other material components, the coating could be further functionalised, for example to be photovoltaic or radio frequency shielding. So let's talk about spin coating. This is a technique used for semiconductor research typically. It involves taking typically a circular substrate, for example a silicon wafer, and coating it with a thin layer of a liquid. In the early days it was photoresist, and that liquid would be pulled into the centre of the wafer, and then the wafer spun at a controlled speed. And as the wafer spins, the coating will spread out evenly across the surface of the wafer and thin down to the required thickness. So this was for photoresist, for photolithography, for the development of semiconductors, but that technique has now also been used for the development of polymer films and also for developing sensors. The next technique we'll talk about is dip coating. As the name suggests, this is where the substrate is lowered into a reservoir of the coating material and then withdrawn again, and the idea is to leave a very uniform layer of the coating onto the substrate. A good example of this that everyone will be familiar with is the coating of ice creams with a layer of chocolate, but this is also used in a lot of applications in the electronics industry, for instance coating circuit boards with conformal coating to protect them from moisture. Spray coating is used in the scientific industry very much for putting very special coatings onto surfaces. We all know spraying, of course, from spray cans and for painting cars, but here we're talking about materials which may be containing a specific type of particulate material, and making sure that coating is very uniform and very even. It can be, for instance, for the coating of electrodes in fuel cells, making sure the ceramic components of the coating are evenly distributed across the surface of the electrodes. So sputter coating. This is a coating technique using a plasma to develop a coating onto a surface, typically used in the electronics industry but also in research for sensors and aerospace applications amongst others. The technique involves the use of a target. The target will be the material that we want to deposit, and in the coating system in the vacuum chamber the target is hit with a beam which causes a plasma to form within the chamber, and that plasma will then condense onto the surface of our substrate, creating a very uniform thin film. So for example it would be a metallic target, for instance a precious metal like gold would be used to create coatings on a semiconductor to make the connectors. Screen printing. This technique many people will be familiar with, the custom t-shirt printer at the seaside for instance, but screen printing is very much for putting down patterns of material. So for instance for fuel cells, patterns of electrodes, and also for photovoltaic cells, again the patterns of the active materials. Film coating is a technique very much used in the energy research industry, particularly battery research. It's used for coating slurries of the anode and cathode materials onto the electrode foils. The slurry is coated at a very precise thickness using various techniques including doctor blade, slot blade and reverse comma techniques to give a uniform layer of coating.